All right, welcome to another Sports Injury Central / Pro Football Doc podcast. And our topic today is going to be very much March Madness college basketball related. We are Sports Injury Central, so we do cover that. And we're very pleased to have a special guest here today. Of course, Jacob and Taylor and Justin are in the background. But we're very pleased to have Dan Dakich here with us. I've had the pleasure of being on his show and other things and respect what he's done all the time. And so welcome to the show, Dan.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Doc. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for coming on my show on Outkick. By the way, you can see my show 9 to 11. It's called Don't At Me in the morning, all over Outkick and on my Twitter at Dan Dakich. So shameless plug, but thanks for having me, guys.
I might suggest a different little byline for you. I mean, look, college basketball and the guys in the room here, they're young, so they might not know this joke. But I mean, in my time, obviously Michael Jordan, right? And the joke was, who's the only person who could hold Michael Jordan under 20 points? And the answer was, you guys know the answer to this? This is a long occurring joke in my era. Dan will know the joke. Who's the only person that could hold Michael Jordan under 20 points?
Well, the answer to that is two people, me and Dean Smith.
That's right. So the joke answer has always been Dean Smith, right? Dean Smith at North Carolina held him to under 20 points.
Right.
But we got to get that joke amended, Dan. I mean, you're the only guy that's really held him to under 20 points, right?
Kicked his ass, Doc. We got lucky. He missed shots, but I will tell you this. The man owes me $6,000 from a golf game. That was in 1984. We beat him. He came to the Olympic trials in Bloomington. Coach Knight was the coach. I was a player. Michael and I are the same age, and we played golf one Sunday afternoon. I beat him out of $6,000 when I didn't have $2,000 to my name, but he wanted to bet. He was terrible. I was good. And he never paid me, Doc. He tried to pay me in swag that they got for the Olympics, like plain pocket jeans from Levi's or Polaroid cameras. The dude stiffed me in 1984, Doc, $6,000 after I whooped his ass in golf and in the NCAA tournament. I own Michael Jordan.
Well, that might be some breaking news here. Michael Jordan's worth about $6 billion or something right now, right? And I don't think you should go around saying he owes you $6,000. I think you should go around saying he owed you $6,000 in principal, and then add in all the interest and penalties and late fees. You might have $6 million coming to you, but you might find that in Michael's couch cushion right now. I mean,
yeah. Hey, I had a friend. It's probably, I don't know, 5 years. He was actually, I was living with him and a couple guys that summer, so he knew the story and he knew it was true. He figured out at one point that it was without penalties, but just with interest, it was about $96,000. I don't know how many years ago now. I did have dinner with him one time, and he tried to, at his restaurant after a playoff game, and he tried to say that covered the $6,000, but no, the steak was good. It was really good, but it wasn't that good. It wasn't $6,000 good.
What do they say? Always pay your golf bets. I mean, come on, Michael. Come on, Michael. There you go. Well, he's so pervasive. Like, okay, my kids, my Royal twins are 10, and my son has all the Jumpman gear, and my daughter likes the Jumpman sneakers, and because I liked her sneakers, she actually got me a nice pair of Nike Jordans for Christmas, and at one point I said about him playing basketball, and because, Brush with Greatness, I was an assistant team physician, assistant. We have Dr. John Heffernan on our Sports Injury Central staff, and John Heffernan, as you know, was a longtime Chicago Bulls team physician.
Yeah.
And we've had him on the podcast, and he dispelled some of the narrative of the food poisoning game in Utah and other things. And he's with us. But I was helping him in a small way take care of the team / Michael Jordan. But my 10-year-olds are like, he played basketball?
Right. Right.
No, he just has a cool clothing line, right? I mean, that logo is cool. Oh, that's him dunking a basketball? Oh, okay.
Did not know that.
I mean, that's when you know you're really, really old. They don't even know. But Michael Jordan is huge, obviously.
When my kids, my son was little, loved basketball, and I was coaching at Bowling Green, and we were in a bad stretch, and we got beaten. I came home. I go, you know what? I'm just going to make myself feel good today. So I turned on the video of us playing North Carolina, the game that you're talking about, and I told my son, we're going to grab popcorn. I'm just going to feel good today. And literally 2 minutes into the video, my son had no interest in the game. He just wanted to talk about how I had hair and Michael Jordan had hair, and he couldn't believe there was a time when we both had hair. So he made me feel like crap. So I kicked him out of the room and watched the game by myself, just so I could feel good after about 3 losses in a row as a head coach. So yeah, that's the way it goes.
Well, what would make you feel better, watching that game again, or Michael Jordan finally paying off that golf bet at 96,000 or more?
I could care less about that game. I'm getting older. I need retirement money, the scratch. You know what they say? Money always wins, and money in my world would be very nice from MJ, but I don't think I'm going to see it in this lifetime.
Well, I think you'll probably get a lot of mileage out of the claim and going forward. Well, you know any attorneys that'll represent you? I mean,
yeah, I got a family full of attorneys. My brother's an attorney. My sister's an attorney. My uncle. Yeah, I'm covered in attorneys, but I just like saying that Michael Jordan owes me money. That's better than I like owning Michael Jordan. I'm the only guy around that can own him. I beat him in the court. I didn't beat him. Our team beat him. And then I beat him on the golf course. So you know what? I like owning Michael Jordan.
Also, so that the whole Dean Smith joke doesn't even apply. But these guys in the room here don't even know the joke, so they're so out of it. Anyways, all right, let's talk about March Madness. I will be the first to admit that I don't personally watch a lot of college basketball because I got little kids. I mean, look, I was daddy daycare weekend. My wife was in Phoenix with the 10-year-old daughter at a cheer tournament, gymnastics / cheer, right? What they do nowadays. And she took the little one with her. So it was a undefeated dad weekend, 2 upset basketball 10-year-old playoff wins and a baseball playoff win. So I'm sort of, cheering that undefeated weekend on. So I watched a lot of little kid basketball this weekend. I didn't watch a lot of the NCAA stuff, but March Madness is here. We're going to do brackets among our company, and everyone does. But we are up to date on all the injuries. That's what I still look at along with the panel of doctors. And so I know that you have some of your predictions and other things already, but I think there's a number of key injuries that Jacob will probably run us through. And maybe start with, do you have any questions about injuries that are on players going through the Final Four March Madness, and then we can go from there. Road to the Final Four.
No, I got to tell you, Doc, I lost my coaching career to injuries. I coached for 10 years at Bowling Green State University, and in that time, we won. First time Bowling Green had ever won a outright championship in 2002. We won more in 5 years than they had ever won.
So you lost your career due to injuries.
Yeah, I did. We had a deal, Doc. 7 of my 10 years, I lost my 2 best players, and 5 of my 10 years, I lost my 3 best players. And in fact, we had just won. We were 12-3. We had just beaten our rival at home, and a hell of a comeback. We were down 17, came back, won the game. Crowd rushed the floor, and I had a player named Jermaine Fitch who had 2 ACL surgeries, and he had just come back. I thought the kid was going to be a pro, but he kept getting in. He had a great second half. I hit my assistant on the leg. I said, man, nobody's going to beat us now. And next thing you know, crowd rushed the floor. Kid jumped on my player, Jermaine Fitch's back, tore his ACL a 3rd time. And instead of 25, 27 wins, we won 18. And he never came back. 2 other kids. My other kid got hurt. So I'm very familiar with the importance of injuries. I literally lost my career. We were on a path to do things that, teams had never done. And last 5 years I was at Bowling Green, lost my 2 best players, sometimes 3 every year.
Well, one of the things we do at Sports Injury Central, like for example, for football, we do field views and we show a team's offense and defense and how healthy they are and the run game, pass game, et cetera. And for basketball, we do some court views. And the big difference is that one key injury in basketball is worth at least 4, if not 5 key injuries in football, because A, you have to play both ways, and B, it's 22 starters. Really, you could argue more with the rotation and so forth in football, but it's 5 basketball starters. So for you to say you've lost 2 or 3 star players, that team would be red in our book in terms of the score, and you can't win that way. I mean, you can't lose the equivalent of 14 or 15 players off a NFL team and win, starters, right? And
Doc,
so,
I had during the year when you lose players, right? Coach or my athletic director and the fans are like, man, what a great coaching job you're doing. Holy cow, right? But then at the end of the day, your record is your record. And the fact of the matter is nobody really cares. And it doesn't matter if it's me at Bowling Green or Indiana or Purdue or the NFL, for coaches anyway, at the end of the season, how many on the left, how many on the right, how many wins, how many losses. And you know what, as a coach, you understand that. As a coach, you take all the compliments with a grain of salt. But basketball, look, we had 13 scholarship players. Usually I only used 11. It's one thing, in basketball, if you lose an okay player, maybe a walk-on, but not your good players. I'll give you one right now. Houston, number 1 seed in the NCAA. They have a kid named Sasser, who's their best player. He goes down. I think it was in the semifinal. Shoot, they got blasted by Memphis, and they don't know whether he's coming back. And that's going to affect the entire tournament because you're talking about a number 1 seed in Houston, 3 losses all year, 31-3. It's one thing to have your second string or whatever go down, but when it's your best player, that affects the whole tournament.
well, no question it does, and it's a great lead-in. So, for example, you're right. Nobody knows what his injuries are, and in college, there's not injury reporting, right? And
Right.
and that's why we say what we do is so important. We do injury analysis anyways. We don't do injury reporting analysis, and we go by video. And Marcus Sasser, we put out there when he went down with the groin that we said he wasn't going to play in the finals. Of course, the reports came out pregame that he did everything in warmups and he was going to play, and then the line did what the line did. And the bottom line is obviously he didn't even play at all with the groin. And with the groin, it's very hard when you're a guard and everywhere. So we actually have his 6 score. We have something called the Sports Injury Central Health Score 100, and very rarely is someone 100% healthy. But it's percent of expectations. 80 is 80% of expectations. He's in the 60s, even if he can play 61. Defensively, he's not going to be able to do much. Running the point, which he doesn't have to do, I guess, he's not going to be able to do a lot. So that's a significant difference there as you talk about this, Marcus Sasser, So, yeah, that's one of the lead storylines that we sort of have.
Yeah, well, Sasser is a really good player. They play a physical style. Houston does. And again, it's it's one thing to say, all right, a walk-on got hurt or a guy coming off the bench. But one of the things that it is kind of interesting is how teams have overcome injuries. There's a kid named Fremantle that playing for Xavier who, you could argue is one of their 5-6 best players. He's been out, and Xavier has played, I think, really, really well, and it just, here's the deal, Doc, you got to have guys that are there for a reason. Meaning, when you coach college basketball, you said it, right? You only got 13 scholarship players. So every scholarship has meaning. Football, you can give a scholarship. You got 100 guys, whatever. Basketball, my son, I'll give you an example. My son went to Michigan as a walk-on. And John Beilein said, Dan, he's playing pretty good. He's 1 sprained ankle away from getting regular minutes. That sprained ankle came. He got regular minutes. So basketball is just a unique deal with that. And to your other point about the importance of each individual player, look, there's absolutely no question. And frankly, games swing in the middle of them if a guy turns an ankle in basketball, if a guy goes down. There's probably 5 games, a couple for us, a couple against us over the course of my career that an in-game injury absolutely changed the outcome of the game. And also, to your point, as a coach, and this goes back a long, 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 long time. The last undefeated team in college basketball is the 1976 Indiana Hoosiers. Well, in 1975, the player of the year, Scott May, to your point about efficiency, he broke his wrist in the last regular season game of the year. Indiana in 1975 was undefeated. They were undefeated going into the tournament. It was determined that put a cast, kind of a mid-cast, and he could play. The efficiency rate was probably 20%. Coach Knight, Bob Knight, made the decision to play him his normal minutes as opposed to a backup. They lost in the Elite Eight. Knight regrets doing that. So as a coach, you have to weigh, all right, I want this guy on there, but is he at 50%, 40, 30, whatever, better than the backup who is 100%, but not as good? You got to weigh that. And that's a tough thing in a tournament, particularly when you're playing a Thursday, Saturday, or a Friday, Sunday, and you only got one day. And it's single elimination. It's not the NBA where you got 4 out of 7. You lose, you go home, and everybody's disappointed.
That's another big point. And look, since I spent the weekend watching little kid 10-year-old basketball, but I think the analogy fits. My son's little team lost their best scorer with a finger fracture a couple weeks ago. And it took them a couple of weeks to adjust, where now they've actually are playing pretty well. And that kid is now coming back. And it's going to be interesting to see for this little, division finals where they have in the playoffs, how they're going to do with him back in, because they've sort of figured out how to play without him. Yeah. Right. And look, we're going to welcome him back in. Look, I don't even coach the team. It's coached by somebody else. But one of the things we concentrate on here, for example, with Houston, and we'll get to the other list here, the recent injuries really hurt you because your team hasn't figured out how to do it without that person sometimes, right? And the recency of injuries, and we do it for football too, the reason it's not just the injury and who the starter is and who the backup is and who can play in their place, but getting used to playing in the new rotation, I think, is a big deal. And, to lose like Scott May, for Scott May to go down so late in the season, I think that's devastating. If it's early in the season, mid-season, you got a chance to right the ship. But this late as you head into tournament play, I think it's a big deal. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here. And there's really not a lot of information. Sasser, if he returns to play defensively, he's going to be hard. He can hit the 3 probably. But, I think he's going to be very limited in his effectiveness, and you got to factor that in for Houston. And this groin issue is not something that's going away by next week. So maybe Houston can get through, to the Sweet 16 without him, but can they really go beyond that? I think it's going to be a big question mark.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm 60 years old, and I can remember when I injured my groin, and I'm also going to tell you it still hurts. There are different times where it still hurts. Yeah. I mean, honest to God, it's like, oh man. And I can remember the minute I did that. So I always did this. I always worried about that. I'll tell you something about injuries, and you mentioned, how late, that kind of thing. I had a chance. Billy Donovan, when he was the head coach at Florida, won 2 national championships in a row. And what he did was he basically had the same group come back, Joakim Noah, Al Horford, and this group. And I asked him, I was visiting with him, and I said, all right, what did you do the second year? He said, you know what my main concern was? It was injury. And we had a manager, and we had a doctor, and we had a trainer. We limited the amount of time guys played against each other, meaning we could come in for shooting, individual work. We did a lot of that. But they found that injury potential goes up exponentially when you're playing 5-on-5 or 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 and all that stuff. So he had set minutes that the doctor, the trainer, and he established for each of their veteran players. And you know what? He said we were fresh. He said we did not get hurt, and we were able to win a second national championship. And I think a lot more coaches, at least in college basketball, I can't speak to football. I talk to coaches in basketball all the time, and that's really it. Are really cognizant of that. I'm really cognizant of limiting actual me against you time to limit injuries. Because, as I said, guy like me, lose your career, whether it's a fluke injury or not, whether you could have done anything about it, but, you lose your career because of it.
Well, that's interesting because what you're talking about is load management, and that's a big topic in the NBA right now, load management and et cetera. And I've maintained for a long time that load management happens in every league. It's just more blatant in the NBA because little Johnny doesn't get to see Steph Curry on a given night when dad bought tickets, right? Whereas Saquon Barkley load management is okay. You sat for a series in the second quarter, right? You alternated a little bit, or you didn't play on third downs. Load management, or fewer, more red zone targets, but fewer other targets. So load management happens in every league. Look, we know it happens in baseball. Look, now it's 5/6 starting pitchers, right? And the closer pitches only in the ninth, and there's a setup guy in the eighth. And back in my day, you'd pick the seventh, eighth, and ninth, or at least eighth and ninth. So there's load management everywhere. But I think the NBA gets it, and you bring up an interesting point. So even back in the day, it's been in colleges, the load management and so forth. So it's interesting.
You mentioned earlier, to your point, you mentioned earlier us beating North Carolina in the NCAA tournament. And what happened was we played on Saturday. So we beat Richmond on Saturday. Then we flew back, took Sunday off, had a meeting. And coaches always ask me, right? Like, you played for Bobby Knight, he's toughest guy ever. Man, I bet he grinded you in practice. And the answer was no. He was one of the first guys. In fact, I think he was the first guy that understood, hey, look, we're going to practice 20, 30 minutes and we're going to watch film or we're going to shoot. We're not going against each other. And so guys always say, it was Indiana, North Carolina. I bet coach really had. I go, no, we practice maybe 20 minutes a day the entire week because you want to be fresh. And particularly in basketball, look, you got to understand something about college basketball. Load management is a little bit built in college sports. You have a mandatory day off, right? Most coaches, you can only practice 20 hours a week. So it's pretty much built in. It's not going to happen in games other than, if a kid gets hurt or kid gets tired in the game. But it happens off the season. And the other thing with college basketball is you got to be very careful. Football is play a game, sit a week, play a game, sit a week, and you're done in a semester. College basketball, you start playing basically this just a game part in November. So you're practicing. Maybe you play a tournament over Thanksgiving, which is 3 games in 4 days. You got to fly back. You're in class for not 1 but 2 semesters. It is a very, very long, and I mean long year. Basically, if you're in the NCAA tournament, you have been going at it hard since the first day of school in September to right now. It is long. So it is just common sense that coaches started picking up on, Doc, where, hey, look, today we're going to have a mental day. I'll tell you what I did one time. I had a team that we won the Mid-American Conference. We went, I don't know, whatever we went, 22-5 or something. And towards the end of the year, we won a game. I could tell we were a little stale, and I had a veteran team. So I had guys that had been around me. So I acted like I was mad, Doc. And this is really stupid of me that I did this, but I did it. Hey, I don't give a – you guys, we didn't play good. I know we won. Tomorrow, 3 o'clock, get ready. We're going to practice, blah, 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 blah. Well, what I did was we had a hill at Bowling Green, and it had snowed, and it was a beautiful sledding hill. So I had my managers go get sleds and even like trays from the cafeteria. And we had it all set on top of this hill. My managers were there, my coach. But I walked in, my players were dressed for practice. I said, no. I said, we're not practicing today. I said, everybody put your clothes on, put your boots on, put everything on. We're going out to the hill and we're running. So they all, oh, man, this is awful. So they get in their cars, they drive across campus, and I got sleds lined up. And they're like, what are we doing? I go, you're crazy. I go, that's a hell of a win yesterday. We're going sledding today. And I mean, these guys had the best time, right? Now, it's stupid. And a nurse told me, Dan, there's a lot of sledding accidents, you moron, and guys could have got hurt. But we ended up winning the league. We won 6 in a row at the end of the season because you got to keep guys fresh and you got to figure out unique ways to do it because the season's so long.
No, you're right. But two thoughts come to mind for me right there. First of all, last time I went sledding, I went to one of those sled parks that had a little conveyor belt that took you up. I mean, that's pretty tough work when you're sledding. You have to walk uphill. That's a workout right there. Second of all, it's long in history now, but if the NCAA would have known about that, it might have been a violation for an added benefit or something.
We did. Hey, look, that's why I said we're not buying these guys sleds. We're going to go get trays from the cafeteria.
Oh, that's how you worked around the added benefit.
We were thinking, Doc. We were thinking.
Yeah, I got you. All right, so let's run through a little more. We talked about Houston, a number 1 seed, and Marcus Sasser and his issues. Kansas, number 1 seed. Back spasms for their one guy. He's going to be okay, I think.
Can I jump? Can I jump in for one? There's a big one, I think. Dan, you had a team to watch. Is Drake, right? They're going to play. They're going to play Miami. They're going to be maybe without Norchad or Mir.
Well, we're going to get there. We're just going by number 1 seeds to get to the number 5 seed.
Sasser. I thought we're doing the big names.
We're picking
here.
upsets, dog. That's all we care about.
Come on.
No, come on now. So Kansas number 1, McCullers, he'll be fine. Bill Self, discharged from the hospital, his heart issue. First of all, I think Bill Self is a well-liked coach. And I think potentially the team will rally behind him. I don't see much of an issue here, but also he got 2 stents. And guess what? Sure, he's going to have low stress, but medically, I'm not trying to make a joke of this, is once the stents are in, it's like instant relief in terms of your heart, as long as there wasn't any long-term damage. So I think Coach Self will be fine for this tournament. And that's just a footnote on the number 1 seed Kansas team. And, apparently he's going to be back, and sure, it's scary, but it sounds like the doctors took care of it. So don't have a lot of worries on Kansas as a number 1 seed. Going in order, next up, UCLA, a number 2 seed. As you know, Taylor and these guys want to pick upsets. UCLA, I think, has a problem here. Jalen Clark, we put out that he was out for the season with his Achilles, right? And that turned out to be true, and we put it out at the time based on video. But their other defensive stalwart, what's his name?
Bona.
Adam Bona.
Adam Bona, yeah. By video, he clearly dislocated his left shoulder. And if you look at, it's likely an inferior dislocation. If you look at the video of how he walked off the court with the athletic trainer, it's very similar to the SI picture of my holding Drew Brees's left shoulder, inferior shoulder dislocation walking off the court. Clark is out for the season for UCLA. He's done for sure. But Bona's not coming back this week. His 6 scores down to 22. Next week, if they can make the Sweet 16, becomes a maybe. But given his defensive style of play and rebounding, it's hard to harness that. It's not like he sits out at the 3-point line and just shoots. So the Final Four, if the UCLA can get there, I think you can get Bona back. I think he's not here this week. The Sweet 16 round the following week, but Final Four is kind of where he's at to return. So I would urge people to factor that into your calculations related to UCLA. I don't know what your thoughts about their importance, Clark.
Clark is maybe the most important guy not named Tiger Campbell or Jaime Hawkins, and Clark going out is catastrophic for them. I mean, again, you want to have your best players playing. That first round, they'll get by Asheville, although Asheville is very well coached. Second round, if it's Northwestern or even Boise, they should handle them. Northwestern, not necessarily a big team. However, Northwestern does have 2 guards that can go cause a lot of damage. It'll be interesting to see. But, at the end of the day, as a coach, you look at it like this. Yeah, it's crazy. It's terrible. I hate it. But it's an opportunity for somebody else to come play. And it's an opportunity for older guys. They got a player of the year in the Pac-12. You mentioned Jaime Hawkins, and I think a terrific point guard in Tiger Campbell, and, opportunity for them. But all that leadership stuff is great. But then when you start playing Gonzaga or you start playing Houston or you start playing Purdue, you got to have your guys. I mean, you're not winning with hope and yay rah go fight win. You're winning those games, as you said, in the Final Four and such with your guys. And those two injuries are bad, particularly the one to Clark.
Yeah, and Clark's not coming back.
No.
Texas, number 2 seed, Timmy Allen, unspecified injury. We don't have a lot of information or video. He's declared ready to go. Was it a calf? Was it what have you? We hope he's ready to go, but we don't have a lot of info there. The next one, obviously, unfortunately, the Tennessee starting point guard in game / real time. We said, unfortunately, that looked like an ACL tear, and that's been confirmed. So he's done for the season. They've had a little bit of time to adjust, but that's a big one. But let's go to what Taylor wanted to go to, number 5, Miami, because against Drake early on, their big center who, and one of the things that we do, Dan, is we don't look at an injury and say every groin's the same, or an ankle sprain. Look, Norchad Omier, am I saying his name correctly?
Yep.
I don't know his style of play, but he's very active, rebounder, defender, athlete, big man athlete. Ankle injury, a standard inversion ankle sprain on March 10th.
Every minute that goes by, and 30 miles down.
Oh boy, hang on a second. Somehow my TV just turned on.
Oh, no problem.
I got one of these wireless things, and I'm looking, and all of a sudden that just came on. Like, what is this? Why is this on? I'm going to mute this thing right now. There we go.
Oh, no problem.
All right.
No problem.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, that's me with tech without these young guys, right?
I'm telling you, Siri listens to me. I know Big Tech is listening because she'll pop up, and this TV, I'll come down in the morning, and it'll be on. Go ahead. I'm sorry. But, yeah, the big kid, look, here's the deal. All right, let's take his injury. All right, so you're going to play round 1 against Drake. Now, Drake is really good, and Drake has an older big guy, but he's not one of their leading scorers. So you can get by if you're good enough to beat Drake without a big guy. But if you play Indiana and you don't have your big active center, and you've got Trace Jackson Davis, who's a first-team All-American, and frankly can score anywhere between 20 to 40, you got a real problem. That hinders your ability, hinders it big time. It's a bad matchup for Miami without that kid playing. And you and I both know ankles are bad to begin with. Ankles on a big kid that's certainly active, runs, all that kind of stuff. That's bad business. Good for Indiana. I live in Indiana. I coached in Indiana, so good for us, bad for them.
No question. And he's got a significant inversion ankle sprain, at least grade 2, if not grade 3. His only hope of coming back early is if this is a little bit like Steph Curry, where it's chronic, and we don't have the data on that. But look, I don't see him doing much or being effective. His 6 score is 36, and that's sort of for the first week, the first 2 games here. And as you say, maybe Drake's okay, but against Indiana, etc., looking ahead, but he can't be dynamic. And in my understanding, he's a very dynamic player. I mean, if he were a 7'4" center plotter underneath, I mean, he might be able to get away with it, but he's a very dynamic player. And this ankle sprain, I think, is going to be a big deal for Miami.
Yeah. Good. Like I said, good for us in Indiana. Look, make no mistake, Doc. When I was coaching, it didn't bother me one bit that a good player from the other team was hurt. I don't want anybody to get really hurt. I don't want anybody to die, but it didn't bother me when you found out before a game, hey, so-and-so isn't playing for Akron or Kent. Good.
It goes both ways, right? It's going to even out eventually, right? Yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's
right.
That's one of the things that we try and do, is to try and give you injury analysis. Don't take the cheese. Sasser, full warm-up, good to go, the whole deal, and didn't even play, kind of thing. And so hopefully there won't be any new injuries, during the tournament. But, one of the things we find, because there's not really, look, we used to not go into colleges hard. We've expanded at Sports Injury Central with more staff, but also we felt like college football and even basketball, these were amateurs. But now with NIL, I mean, we think it's fair game, and it's not insider information. We're not calling ADs or athletic trainers or coaches for information. It's just insider knowledge of publicly available information, i.e. video of what their injury is. and publicly available reports in trying to interpret or analyze it. So we'll continue to do that throughout this March Madness here.
I became an expert. I know exactly what you're talking. In fact, there's a kid on Indiana named Race Thompson. Race Thompson gets hit on the court, and this was embarrassing for me as a former player, but for some reason, this 6'9", 250-pound, 6-year senior decides he's going to cry on the court. And I'm like, get up. My wife says, what do you mean? I go, look. She goes, he tore his ACL. I go, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. I've seen torn ACLs. There's no chance he tore his ACL. He got scared, which is what a lot of kids do. So what happens? He doesn't tear his ACL because you can see it clearly from video. He got scared, started crying, which I'll never understand. You'd have had to stab me in the carotid artery to get me to cry in front of 10, 20,000 people, but that's the new millennials. So anyway, long story short, he misses like a week, and I don't think he even needed to do that. But you're right. You can see on the video.
He couldn't put any weight on it, and he freaked out.
You obviously have a lot more experience than I. But if you have any experience at all, which I got a ton of at Bowling Green, you can tell by the video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and well, what we say is, if you go to see the doctor and you say, what happened to your knee, and you describe what happened, that's the video, right? And part of it, I fell into it because I did, the action sports industry. I was the X Games team doctor, or the official physician for ESPN for almost 20 years. And every one of those guys, whether it's practice or in a competition or in their backyard, has video rolling. And when they come in, they go, what happened? They go, here, and they show you.
Right.
And the video, but you bring up an interesting point, and this is what we always say. You have to judge the video, not the reaction. Judge the injury, not the reaction to the injury. The tears, the throwing of a helmet, the slamming of this, that, the other, doesn't really always correspond to the significance of what is going on. You have to judge the injury, not the reaction to the injury. And that's what you're talking about there with looking at the video. All right, Dan, thanks so much. We've run longer than anticipated. I kind of figured that because we've got a lot to talk about. What else you want to talk about or close with or push or whatever you want? The floor is yours.
No, just check us out, outkick.com, and don't at me every morning, 9 to 11. You can get it on YouTube. Look, Dakich Outkick, or go to outkick.com. We're always there.
Awesome. That sounds great. I had fun when you had me on that one time there. So thanks again. And we'll take a quick break here on the Sports Injury Central podcast, and then we'll come back with the rest of the show. And thanks a lot for your time, Dan. And remember, you got to change the joke now. It's not just Dean Smith. It's Dan Dakich. Can stop Michael Jordan should be the punchline. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Good segment with Dan there. I mean, I don't really know Dan that well. Just been on a show one time, and interesting guy, right? He's got a lot to talk about, which is cool. So let me ask you guys, Jacob, Taylor, and Justin, 3-person vote. Better story. He held Michael Jordan to under 15 points when he played him.
13 points exactly. Sorry.
13 points exactly, whatever. Did a better job than Dean Smith, right? Because his average was under 15, whatever, with Dean Smith. Yeah. Or that Michael Jordan owes him $6,000. What's the better story?
The golf story for sure.
The golf story for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I like the stat one. He's like.
Oh, you're the tiebreaker, Justin.
Yeah. All right, I got to come in. I mean, it's honestly like the physical accomplishment of doing that. That's pretty good. But the staying power of Michael Jordan always owing you money is definitely the better party story. I think.
The fact that he's still chasing it down.
I need to meet Jordan. I don't think he's chasing it down.
You don't have to.
But that's the funny part.
I just think there's a long list. I think he's a part of a long list. The other part, he's like, who's literally stopped Jordan for under 15 points?
Is Jordan better at basketball, golf, or gambling?
Basketball. And he's not better at golf. He's terrible at golf. He's literally, everybody knows that. He's terrible at golf.
Terrible at golf.
He's not great though. He's not
going
to
beat Charles Barkley.
What's your handicap, Taylor?
Well, I mean, I've never golfed, so actually, it's probably better than Jordan right now.
No,
okay?
Gosh, that surprised me.
What do you think? You like the money more?
100%.
Yeah.
Not the money.
No.
The holding him to under 15 points.
That's the best one.
100%. Because every Tom, Dick, and Harry could have him owe him money.
That's what I think. You're on a long list of people.
I mean, to me, the bigger thing is that you're friends with Michael Jordan and you actually played golf with him.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yes.
The owing money part is, to me secondary to that. But to have played against them in an NCAA tournament and beat them and held them to 13 points, that's to me, that's way better.
Bob Knight said, "Don't let him embarrass us and don't let him dunk on you." And he said, and Dan's like, "All right," and then went to puke in the back and came back and had a great defensive effort. So
you beat him over 18 holes is more impressive. Everyone has an off night.
He's not as good as basketball than
whatever,
golf.
he had an off night.
You're beating like a kind of good golfer.
But you're talking about
players.
the NCAA tournament in Indiana and a legendary guy.
Jordan probably played 72 holes before he played in that game.
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to agree to
Sober
disagree. To me, the much more impressive is you actually. I mean, I'd say, look. I think I scored a layup once when I was on the court against Jay Billis, and I'm still talking about
it. That's a good story. That's a good story. Yeah.
I mean, come on. I'm going to try and claim that, and no, I mean,
40 minutes, right? 40 minutes of basketball. How much he played?
Dinner table conversation though. If you bring up I stopped Jordan, then this guy's full of stuff. But Jordan still owes me money. That's a whole conversation. That's
all right. It sounds like a Twitter poll coming. We're going to clip both of these, and we'll have a poll on what it is. And
the story, I don't believe you. I'm pulling up Wikipedia where it's
my guess. Yeah. My guess is going to be a little bit age dependent on where, I don't know. Anyways, that was fun. It was fun to chat with him.
Yeah, sure.
All right, Jacob, what do you got? Other sports, other things? What you got?
Everyone's favorite quarterback, everyone's favorite injured quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, has a new landing spot with the Las Vegas Raiders. I know Taylor's super excited.
Yay.
Yeah. Is he ready to go, Doc? He's got a full training camp. I mean, that was the issue last year with the shoulder, but is foot going to be an issue for training camp?
He's ready to go. As we talked about, of the quote recent 49er quarterbacks, he was the healthy one, but he's the one they didn't want.
Right.
And obviously Brock Purdy had his surgery. And, I think what we said on Brock Purdy, people are kind of coming around to, like, okay, they're still trying to say he can start throwing in 3 months. Okay, maybe we'll see.
That's the best case. Yes.
Yeah. Look, he could be ready week 1.
Now 3 months.
There's no guarantee that he's ready week 1. And remember, it's still a very young quarterback without an off season for development. Mm-hmm. It's a tough road. I mean, they're going to still add somebody. They're going to have to.
Yeah.
I've actually talked to some beat reporters. They've come around and say, you're right. They're going to have to do something. And not to say that they're looking to replace Brock Purdy, but they got to have some insurance here.
You need a healthy arm, right?
You need somebody. Yeah. I mean, let's see what happens when Matt Ryan's released, if he'll end up there.
You want that?
I don't know. I'm not saying I want that. I'm just saying it makes some sense, right? There's got to be some trust between Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was MVP under Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. That's why Jimmy went to the Raiders too.
Josh McDaniels reunion.
But you do realize Josh McDaniels reunion with Jimmy G. You know how many games it is?
0, maybe 1 or 2.
2 games.
It's the year that he had that. Yes.
The 4 game Deflategate sit out for Tom. Jimmy played well the first game, played well the second game before he got hurt. Did not finish.
Yep.
And the third game was the Julian Edelman, Martellus Bennett criticizing him on his throwing shoulder AC joint for not playing. So this guy has cashed 2 games. Game and a half, really,
but 1,000 practice days.
Lots of practice days, but into quite the
Jimmy G story.
He's not the Jimmy G guy like everybody thinks. He's only had like you said.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Josh McDaniels can continue to get good games out of him. Obviously, you know how it is in the NFL. It's who's your guy. I mean, Derek Carr with a high salary wasn't his guy. I'm not saying he's terrible, but he wasn't his guy. So. It'll be interesting there. But Jimmy G doesn't have any injury issues currently. And you know me, I don't believe in the injury-prone stuff. But it'll be interesting to see.
Another free agent that signed yesterday was Sterling Shepard. He's had ACL. He's had Achilles in the past. Like the Pollard situation, it would make sense that he goes back to the team that holds his medical records, that's understanding his recovery, right?
And it's a 1-year prove-it deal at not much more than minimum salary.
Yes.
That's tough. Yes. Prove it off of ACL after you had the Achilles the previous season. It
was an early season one, right? So but it's still, like you said, he is also older too, so it's not 100%
And interesting also, I saw a few days ago, Bud Dupree released.
He got released.
And remember when he signed, he said, well, maybe this deal will work out, but
You
that
did
first
not like
year
that
is
deal.
not going to be good.
Right.
Yeah.
He played better the second year, but obviously they're in a salary cap purge
Yes,
right
they're
now
getting rid of a lot of people.
for Bud Dupree. But he actually should be healthy for the most part. I mean, some wear and tear on the knee, but he should be healthy from his ACL.
The other quarterback we're waiting on, Aaron Rodgers, going to make his decision any year now. Yeah, but there's a lot of rumors him to the Jets. Kind of popped in my mind that what are they doing at tackle? I mean, George Fant is a free agent, right? Mekhi Becton was going to be the left tackle. Then he had the right knee issue that he's gotten fixed now, and he dropped a bunch of weight. Taylor pointed out.
Look, dropping some weight. Look, you're looking at a picture, right? I mean, how much did he lose? If it's dropping bad weight, it's a good thing.
Right.
But the most important thing is don't be surprised if he goes back to left tackle. I think he went to right tackle because he did not have surgery on that right knee, making it very hard to be the inside plant leg kicking out to the other side. Don't be surprised if he goes back to left tackle. I think the Jets will have options now that his knee is fixed. You can question his, what sort of shape he was in, and maybe he's in great shape now, kind of thing.
Right.
But medically speaking, don't be surprised if he goes back to left tackle because his kneecap is now fixed.
And that's his natural position as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it also always depends on what it is. And I can't emphasize enough how hard it is to switch from left and right tackle.
Right.
And I've talked to some guys, at the Super Bowl, Jeff Schwartz and others about, some of that topic. And the closest thing I can say is it's literally difference between shooting a right-handed layup and a left-handed layup. Opposite foot, opposite hand, opposite motion.
Right.
And how many of us can really, if you're right-handed, shoot a good left-handed layup?
Right.
I mean, the guys are very talented and used to it, so it's possible, but it literally is mechanically that different.
Right.
To play left tackle and to play right tackle.
How often do you practice that if you're the starting left tackle, then all of a sudden they shift you mid-year like Tyron Smith did?
Well, no question. And that's another question there. It's like, okay, you've only played on the right wing and gotten right-handed layups, and now you got to go get left-handed layups all of a sudden.
Is it a talent thing though too? Also, every time we read this stuff, I always see that they did play that position sometime in their career, young at college or something, so they did do it. But like, is it a talent thing? Like Trent Williams, I see him being able to go right tackle and be okay. Is it like the guys like that are elite that can easily switch, or is it something?
Well, there's a difference. I mean, if you're a great basketball player, you can use both hands.
With ease,
but most players still have a dominant hand.
Right.
I mean, there's very few that are equal on both sides.
Oh, for sure.
And so can Trent Williams or somebody like that do it? Yeah, maybe. But I still think it's hard to do. Kind of thing.
Remember when we were doing offensive line stuff a couple years ago, Jedrick Wills, he's the left tackle for the Browns. He was the right tackle for his whole career in Alabama. I remember when he was drafted, he actually has been okay, but not like dominant left tackle. What you said, like same thing. It's hard. You can't just draft a right tackle and just slot him left tackle. It's not a plug and play as easy.
It's not. I mean, some hats off to people. They adjust and they can do it, but it's just very, very hard. So maybe if Mekhi's better at left tackle, maybe this will be good for him. Got his knee fixed, he's in shape, etc.
He's a first round pick. He's
and then
he had the talent.
Aaron Rodgers blind side if he ends up going there. Which
last year he had a bad blind side too, right, with David Bakhtiari. So
bad couple of years of blind side. So
Jenkins.
Something interesting wrinkle to the Rodgers to the Jets rumors.
Yeah, I mean, if not to the Jets, where's he going to go? Doesn't seem like Green Bay's that excited to have him back.
Yeah, right? And Raiders was one of the teams that's checked off now. So there's not that many places open.
San Francisco? No, just joking.
That's the stopgap, right?
Could be.
No. All right. What else you got?
Just kind of interesting with the franchise tagging and all that stuff. Seems like the more lengthy injury history players are not getting extensions as easy. I mean, Giants, you look at Daniel Jones getting all those years, all that money, and then Saquon Barkley getting franchise tagged. Is that injury based? Is that teams a little hesitant to extend a 3-4 year to a running back?
Well, there's a lot of politics that go into it. So, as a fan, you go, well, why didn't they just extend his 5th year option? It would have been cheaper than a franchise tag. Well, first of all, running back franchise tags are not that expensive.
Right.
Second of all, this is the big fallacy that people say. I mean, you think of a team or the Giants, why did they do this? Why did they not do this? But it's a point in time. For example, I remember people saying about the Chargers, they got burned on Ryan Leaf, so they're not going to draft this quarterback. No. The GM that drafted Ryan Leaf is not here anymore.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't think he was burned by drafting Ryan Leaf.
Right.
I mean, it's the comparison is not correct. So for the Giants, and you got to get the details right, but Saquon coming off not a great year and new regime coming in, they needed to make a decision and they didn't want to commit it. And now that they see he had a rebound year, they're saying the franchise tag isn't that expensive for running backs. And so they did it. So as I always say, teams don't intentionally nobody intentionally makes a dumb decision. They may make a decision that doesn't work out, but they had reason to make that decision at that given point in time.
Right.
And it may not work out, but that's all. And circumstances change. Saquon had a great year.
Mm-hmm.
And
also go. Like I think that like Jacobson too, if you want to do that, I think one was maybe a money thing for the Raiders. Giants, it seems like you said, he's coming off the injuries. They haven't seen 2 straight years of no injuries. But
the other thing is until they signed Daniel Jones, they didn't have the franchise tag available.
Yes,
so they couldn't do anything there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But once they signed Daniel Jones, now they have it. Now they can utilize it. If Daniel Jones remained unsigned and had to be franchise tag, I think Saquon walks.
Yeah.
Right.
That's too much money being utilized in one.
So it's not even the money. It's you only have one tag.
Okay. Yeah.
So there you go. And the Lamar thing will play out. That'll be interesting. I mean, if you really look at it, where does Lamar go? I don't know.
Even people saying Atlanta, that's a big topic. But
it's interesting that Atlanta came out and said we're not interested.
I don't believe that. But
yeah, I don't know that.
Everybody ate that up, Doc. They're saying, oh, all these teams aren't interested, so it's on the Ravens.
Well, I don't know if look, it all depends on the price. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
You guys want to go to Vegas this weekend and watch March Madness? Hotel rooms are $1,000 and the flight's $1,000 round trip.
They're nuts.
No.
Yeah.
Answer is no.
Yeah.
I got a $50 flight to Vegas and a $50 hotel room. You want to go? I mean, it all comes down to the economics.
You don't want to look too interested also.
Yeah.
You know, say, he's our guy.
Yeah,
he's our only option
at
quarterback.
At what price?
Yeah.
Right. Is the question. And I think there's a lot of interest in a lot of people depending on the price and the situation. So, but injury wise, Lamar, I think will be fine.
Well, it's like you said, when Tom Brady was available, you have to do your due diligence as a team, right? If Lamar Jackson's open and you have Colt McCoy or something,
Tom's not available. He's got a kitten.
Oh, yeah. his time's taken. You know what I mean, though? Like if they're not available, they're available. You have to, as a general manager, look into Lamar Jackson, right?
People look into a lot of different situations.
Yeah,
I mean,
you'd be dumb as a GM to not kick the tires on a couple.
That's your
guys.
job, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, pro player personnel, it is their full-time job to know who's available at each slot.
Yeah.
And their job is if our left tackle goes down, these are the top 5 that we would target as free agents.
So personnel
that's
for the entire
job,
league. Yep.
To do. That's why there's a college scout and a pro personnel guy. I mean, so the people go over that stuff all the time. I've seen the boards before, where literally, now it's probably on a computer sheet, but back in the day, it was a whiteboard where they, literally listed their players.
Shine on the board, though.
Kind of deal, and tweaked it on a almost daily basis as to what they thought, etc.
Well, anyone interested, we're doing a free agent series coming out with the people's injury histories and risks going into next year, guys. We're worried about. We already did a kind of fringe quarterback carousel article covering Ryan Tannehill, Marcus Mariota. So anyone interested can find that on the website.
Yep.
MLB's ticking along too. Yankees are starting the year shorthanded, but maybe not the worst case scenario for Rodon and a couple of the other guys. Bader's probably a bit away with the oblique.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we're tracking all that stuff.
I had a question on UCL's, Doc. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
This is Phillies, so I had to jump in. He has the tear in his UCL. There's a huge debate,
Andrew Painter, we're talking about. You got to
he's a 19-year-old 6 overall prospect for baseball in general, not just Phillies. Yeah. So you're saying he likely had a grade 3, but the thing is, though, people are saying that it's proximal, so he's gonna rest and not have the surgery. Why do you think that surgery is still gonna happen for him?
Well, he's 19. Is he going to stop stressing his arm? Is a healed ulnar collateral ligament tear ever as strong? Look, I hope he can avoid it. I haven't looked at his MRI. I haven't examined him. Is it really proximal, or is it that the spin? Is it partial grade 2, or is it grade 3? There's a lot of factors that go into this. Look, Brock Purdy was all set to have surgery and be ready to go, and then he got examined by the doctor who was going to do the surgery, and the surgery got delayed. I mean, there's all sorts of things that can happen when you actually examine. We're looking from afar. I'm not wishing ill will on him, but way back when the Padres were kicking the tires on Ohtani before he got to the Angels, there was some question mark about ulnar collateral ligament history. And I don't remember the exact details, but I remember that there was some partial or some issue. And my opinion at the time was that he's ultimately going to have ulnar collateral ligament surgery. That's not to say you can't clear him today to pitch for the Angels and get signed or whatever, but ultimately he's going to have it likely. And he did.
Yeah.
Now this kid's 19. Look, if he's 34, I think he's got a good chance of not having surgery and making it through. He's 19. I think surgery is potentially in his future. Is it this season? It could be. Is it 3 seasons from now? I don't know. But if you're taking a wager and someone wanted to offer me, he will never have Tommy John surgery in his career, I would take that wager. He's going to, is my belief. It's not 100%. And I haven't even examined the guy.
And there's also a thing you said, he's developing still. He's not at his peak yet. Why would you have that looming over your head, when you're still developing? Just get it over the way. Like you said, it strengthens the UCL as well.
Why have surgery and be out 18 months when you're developing?
And
it stunts your development and growth.
Phillies are all in to win a World Series. He could be your 5th rotation piece. Maybe you limit him, move into a middle relief, bullpen, and you have him bail in the playoffs.
For sure.
Is your window. So it's a calculated risk. It's not their purposely avoiding it. Yeah.
I'm not saying they're being dumb. Right. And that they're look, if there's no way this was going to work, they wouldn't try it.
Right.
But part of trying it is, think of it this way, not since some of you guys liked the $6,000 money angle as opposed to just winning. Would you rather miss 18 months when you're still developing and getting paid low salary and stunt your career and growth and timeline? Or would you rather have a little bit of major league success, get a big deal, and then boom, if it happens, you're an established guy, and you're getting paid guaranteed money to rehab for 18 months at the major league level?
It's a big difference.
Look, nobody wants to have surgery, right? And if given an option of surgery, no surgery, there's a lot of times you pick no surgery. And it doesn't mean that it's bad or wrong. It's a calculated decision. Look, right now, let me present this to you. Let's say it was a 50-50 chance that you could return to pitch this year, or you could have surgery and put it behind you, but it's going to be 18 months. Which would you choose?
50-50, you're not doing surgery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's too like high.
Okay. 75-25, 25% chance it'll work. Are you having the 18-month surgery?
Still no. I mean,
you're still thinking about it. Yeah.
I'm just saying, and it's an individual decision for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
and the starting pitcher for the Phillies, Aaron Nola, like I told you guys, he actually has the same thing. He has not the same thing, obviously, but like he has a tear in his UCL and he didn't have surgery. So I was asking, but
there's grade 1 sprains that are tears and grade 3 sprains.
He just has a tear. You don't know.
You don't know the details in terms of what's happening.
But do you think he's talking to these players and his, like, they're with these guys every day? Is he asking Aaron, like, what do you think? You didn't have surgery. Look at you. He hasn't missed a step.
Look, would you expect every player and their agent and their family to leave no stone unturned and look for options that don't have them out for 18 months.
They want you to ask everybody, right? Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not being critical of it. This is just the reality of it.
Right.
I mean, a lot of times I see second opinions on kids. Well, the guy said I needed surgery. I'm coming to you. Like, well, I think you need the surgery too. Okay. If I gave them the option of no surgery, we want to, I mean, it's no different than, my son saying, can I go on the Switch, Mom? No. Then he'll go and ask Dad, can I go on the Switch?
Yep. You got to exhaust every option.
Yep.
I hate to keep making kid references, but I mean, it's what happens. All right.
Beast of the week. I got Calvin Ridley talking openly and honestly about his misdiagnosed foot injury with the Falcons.
I'd love to have Calvin Ridley on and talk about, or any of the athletes that are
Byron Jones
that are disgruntled about their medical care, and give them a platform to really discuss it. Is it a misunderstanding? Is it blatant malpractice? Is it purposeful hiding of injuries from teams? Some of that is really bad.
Yeah.
And if it's purposely hiding injuries, horrific.
That's
horrible.
Absolutely.
If it's malpractice, not good. Sometimes it's a difference in understanding, like, oh, I think you can make it through it, and then in the end it didn't work, right?
So then you're mad
you're mad on the other end. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing I will say, and I'll give him Beast of the Week for owning up to what he did, gamble. And it didn't sound like he gambled a lot, and it sounded like he was in a tough place, and to come clean like that, I think it's good. But
it's a powerful Players Tribune article for sure. Yeah.
But one of the things I will say, unless I'm missing something, and maybe the game has changed because I'm old and I've been out of it for a while, NFL team physicians do not give players narcotic pain medicine to play.
Right.
It is documented that narcotic pain medicine slows your reaction time. As an NFL team physician, you are not giving painkillers for someone to play. My standard course is, at most, in terms of narcotic painkillers, you might get one Tylenol with codeine if you said you really had to need it. But if you're really needing, like everyone thinks you're loading them up with Vicodin. We never did it.
What does Toradol do exactly?
Toradol is a pain-killing medication, like Advil is a pain-killing medication. Toradol is a strong anti-inflammatory. Okay. There's no question Toradol is used. But I'm just trying to get people to understand that I'd love to have Calvin Ridley on. I'd be surprised, almost shocked, if he was getting narcotic painkillers to play
from the
team to numb the pain. Now, was he getting Toradol? Almost for sure.
Right.
Was he getting numbing block medication? Maybe. That is done. That doesn't affect you systemically. But I think it's just a fallacy that team docs give pain medicine to allow people to play. And if they are on it, I can promise you it's likely not coming from the team doctor.
Right.
It's coming from other sources. We had a kid once that came from USC, and he was arrested with 100 Vicodin, and we went back and looked. It's factual, I guess I can say it. Kevin Ellison. There was suspicion that we had done X, Y, and Z. We went back and looked at records. We never gave him a single Vicodin ever. Yeah. Now, you could argue, why did he need to come to us for it? He had a baggie of 100 in his car. So he was doing it, but not from us. Yeah. I mean, kind of thing. That's just not what's routinely done, at least in my time. And that's just being factual. So straightening that out. But good that Calvin Ridley has come clean with all of this. And I'm glad the NFL didn't give him the death sentence for this. I mean, he made a mistake. He gambled. He admitted to it
at a low point, and
let him return to the league and whatever. And it's not like he was trying to hide anything. He figured, what's the big deal? I'm in Las Vegas. It's legal where I am right now, and I'm not with my team.
I'm betting on my team to win.
I'm betting on my team to win. It's not like I even had any inside information. It's almost like a rooting interest. So, I mean, to me, I get the hard line for the NFL. He got a year, which seems like a very significant penalty.
He was in Florida when he placed the bets.
That's right. Yeah.
But it was still legal. He placed it at a Hard Rock
Right.
Yeah.
casino, right? Isn't that
It was
right?
legal for him until he works for a company that it's not.
Right,
Yeah. That's
right,
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I could see how you make that mistake. I mean, but it's no different than I guess it's legal in California and Colorado to smoke weed, but
As an NFL player.
But if an NFL player,
Yeah.
you're above a threshold, you're going to get popped.
Right.
I mean, so that's what it is. Anyways, all right. Lots of March Madness stuff. And one of the things is, since there's not a lot of injury coverage, I guess we'll try and do our best to give you the best injury analysis. And
we'll be your injury coverage.
And we'll monitor all the games, and hopefully there won't be injuries, etc. But thanks for watching Sports Injury Central podcast, and thanks to Dan Dakich, and we'll see you guys next week.